All right.
Hey,
Um,
how are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Tane.
Good evening, Gus. So the sun has just broken here in Long Island in New York and is, yeah, just coming over the horizon. And how is close to midnight where you're at?
It's pretty late here on the other side of the world, down under.
You're
Uh,
living,
but a pretty momentous occasion for you in America. A big morning as the country wakes up and everyone realizes that you have a new president.
I know. Well, we've finally got not only the first woman in the White House, but the first mother. And that's incredible because mothers are caretakers and they have empathy. I mean, there's been, 250 years of fathers, and it's going to be really great to switch that up. And unlike Donald Trump, Hillary can take some crap. I mean, Donald Trump was making everyone suffer. As soon as, something was thrown at him, he'd go to Twitter and complain and to talk shows and the media. Whereas Hillary was just like, oh no, no, we should still reform education. She'd just get totally crapped on and then just go back to what actually really matters, which is taking care of the people. And I think that's awesome.
What a crazy ride the US election has been. The greatest reality TV series I have ever watched. I've been completely riveted. And part of me is really sad that it's over. And the season finale paid off in more ways than I could ever have imagined. America, the best TV series ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for going to Mars. I think that'll be the next big one.
Yeah.
But it's quite crazy here as well. I mean, I don't know who cares about baseball. I didn't, but also you can have more drama in a World Series than what happened with the Cubs after not winning for 108 years, and then went to the final seventh game, the last possible thing. Then it got rained out, went overtime. It was awesome. So the place was pumping.
One of my favorite things about the election has been that it was never even close. At no point did Trump ever actually have a chance of winning or at no point did Trump ever lead Clinton in the polls, and it was amazing how the media spun that story for it to always be a two-horse race. The
Yes.
other, the other thing that I think is the other thing that I think is remarkable and that a lot of people don't realize is that the human species, which is this successful, outrageous, crazy, amazing primate, has never really done this before, but what we've got now is a 69-year-old grandmother matriarch right at the top of the global pile. Um, we've got a matriarch at the apex of the primate species that is the human being. And we've done that in our time of greatest crisis. We're facing all these challenges like climate change and forced migration and huge issues around new issues like artificial intelligence. And let me start that again. And we've elected a 69-year-old matriarch to the top of the tribe. And she was challenged by the biggest, hairiest, orange haired silverback. And she swatted him away like a fly. And it's remarkable. We've never done this before as a species. This is brand new ground that we're breaking. And I'm incredibly excited. I think, regardless of what you think of Hillary's politics, the fact that we've put a matriarch at the top for the first time of the most powerful country in the world is something worth celebrating.
Absolutely. Um, the time could not be better. Things are ripe. My only concern is there was a great radio interview I heard about one of her former aides about all the email scandals and stuff. And my only concern is she doesn't know how to use a desktop computer. So she's still using a BlackBerry. And it seems like a lot of the email server debacle was not really intentional, just a bit of bit of mishandling of technology and not the best uptake. So I really hope um, she gets to use a desktop. But you know, she's talking about artificial intelligence. She's talking about blockchain. So there is some hope there, and maybe she's just gonna, you know, leapfrog the desktop and move straight onto other devices. So that's how that goes.
Hillary wasn't guilty. She was just a 69-year-old grandmother trying to use a computer.
I know exactly. Um, so yeah, go Granny.
Go Granny. Here's for the Granny. Go Granny.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you? What are you doing in America?
Well, I just arrived at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories. So I'm doing a course on advanced sequencing technologies and their applications. So essentially, just here is one of the world centers for it. So just playing with all the big toys. So pretty excited. I got in the middle of the night last night, but didn't realize all the leaves are changing. And it's just absolutely beautiful. So sitting on Long Island above the harbor, the sun's just coming up, and it's just, I can't believe I'm here. I came from New Mexico, which is a dry desert place and quite warm, and now it's beautiful fall in New York. It's the best time of year there. So pretty
So
stoked. And I'm gonna go nerd out with some of the best DNA sequencing and protein sequencing machines in the world.
that reminds me of a story. Oh, not on backtrack. So, can you tell me a little bit more about exactly what it is that you're going to be learning about there?
Yeah, so what I'm gonna be learning is how to use the most advanced technology that we have for our basic biology. So really uncovering the basic levers and structures that create us from the ground up. So my background, of course, and what I love to nerd out on is DNA. But we're not only going to be doing genomics, but we'll also be doing epigenetics as well. So yeah, just really excited. I've brought a bunch of data to do some microbiome and other cancer analysis, and some people from Cambridge, China, and all over the world have come together to basically nerd out. It should be awesome. Um, yeah.
It reminds me of a story I saw this week about how there's a professor from Harvard. I suppose it's a bit related to this. Is using artificial intelligence to to take molecules and create new drugs that have never been thought of before. So what normally happens with drug creation is that we synthesize molecules based on what humans predict they're going to do. But what this machine learning software does is it goes through millions and millions of combinations of different molecules and then picks the ones out that actually work, which is going to create what the people that are writing this software think is a whole new range of wonder drugs, which will have huge implications in our fight against multiple diseases.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's iterative design, right? Using AI to give it certain parameters and using AI to make thousands and thousands of designs, which is really cool because, I mean, big pharma is pretty gnarly, but they're not as bad as you think. Part of the reason they charge so much is to get a drug to the market. It costs dollars for a drug. And so if we can find a better and cheaper way to do it, it can absolutely revolutionize healthcare. So that's so exciting. I mean, that'll be groundbreaking and bring the price of drugs down for all of us. Super cool.
Seen any cool news stories this week about science and technology?
To be honest, man, I've been mainly following the US election. The only cool thing that I've really seen is desalination, right? Israel's now 55% on desalinated water, which is great. That's the way we're going to fight the water crisis and the Armageddon that everyone talks about. So I'm pretty excited that they have implemented that technology. It's been around for ages, but just at a large scale, right? Because in Melbourne, where you're at, there used to be water restrictions. You couldn't water your yard or anything like that during a drought. And now they've combated that with technology. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's that Israel story is absolutely incredible. You've got a country which is one of the driest countries on earth, and thanks to these new desalination plants, it now has more fresh water than it needs. It can export fresh water. I think, uh, the desalination era really is here.
Yes. Now we need the de-assholing era, where we can remove people
The
like Trump.
de-trumping, the de-trumping era is also here.
Yes, exactly. So
Uh,
pretty good.
so I spotted a couple of pretty cool stories this week.
Yeah.
My favorite story this week my favorite stories this week actually come from China. China's having a really good week in science. Uh, it turns out there's some of their architects are pioneering these new ways of doing bricklaying with artificial intelligence and 3D printing.
Wow.
So they're creating these wild new forms of building that look really, really beautiful. And they're coming up with these new design possibilities, like these bulges that come out of brick walls that is unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can click on the links, I think, in this YouTube video if you want to have a look at those. The other cool news out of China is they've just launched their largest ever rocket. And it's twice the size of their previous one, and it's only just below the size of the biggest one currently in operation in the US. Although SpaceX's Heavy Falcon, which comes into operation next year, is going to be a lot larger than the Chinese one. But the Chinese rocket is pretty remarkable. It can carry up to 25 tons payload into low Earth orbit, and it can carry up to 14 tons up to the new Chinese space station that they're constructing, which they're planning on getting up and running by 2022. And the other cool news coming out of China is they've just set a new record for nuclear fusion. They've managed to burn plasma at 3 times the temperature of the inside of the sun for 102 seconds, which is the longest they've ever been able to hold and burn plasma for in a nuclear reactor. And I think that's an incredible scientific landmark, especially in the hunt for nuclear, for fusion energy.
Yeah, absolutely. One really cool article that I saw was about how they can use 3D printing to combat our huge pollution problem. So using plastic, recycled plastic in third world countries and make it into filaments used for 3D printers. That could have a huge effect if we could somehow really streamline that and then create all of our gadgets and little goodies from recycled plastic from all over the world, and especially using technologies like 3D printing, which reduce waste dramatically, then I think we're moving in the right direction. Another cool one that kind of blew my mind was that the study that came out. Yeah. Oh, 5 minutes?
So that's really interesting that you brought that story up about the 3D printing recycled materials. It turns out that later this week, or maybe next week, do you remember that story from last year about how Adidas was partnering with an ocean waste recovery company to create these 3D printed shoes? Well, it turns out that those shoes are going on sale this month. They're selling 7,000 pairs of those. Apparently the shoes are made of 95% plastic. Each shoe has 11 plastic bottles in them, and all of the material comes from ocean waste plastic. And Adidas is saying that depending on how sales go and if they're successful, they're hoping to ramp that up to 1 million shoes by next year. So the idea that you were talking about there is actually really relevant and is coming to a sneaker store near you later this month.
That's so cool, because we've been talking about that for ages. Now it's here.
Yeah, it's here. The Adidas 3D printed ocean waste shoe has finally arrived.
Another one I'm really excited about, being a cancer researcher, and in America, is Cuba's now, relations have been thawing between Cuba. I'll start that over. Another story I'm really excited about, especially being here in America and being a cancer researcher, is that relations have thawed between Cuba and the United States. And now they've opened up the borders for allowing a bunch of goods to trade, but also new immunotherapies, groundbreaking technology that the Cubans have made, but has never been available in the United States. So they're going to start running trials on those drugs, and I mean, by all accounts, they look awesome. So, of cultural, political, and social innovation over just technological. So that's pretty cool. And thanks,
Great.
Obama. I will miss Obama. It's going to be good to have a patriarch and granny in the Oval Office, but I do miss that dude.
I thought, speaking of Obama, and maybe something to leave you with is, I think, as fascinating as the US elections have been, they've also really shoved a whole lot of stuff off the news cycle. And I think one of the saddest things about, or one of the things that as fascinating as the US elections have been, I think one of the great shames about it is that it's shoved a whole lot of news off the news cycle. And I think the best news that nobody really talked about this week, and I think is even more of a historical landmark than the election of the first woman to the presidency of the United States, was the ratification of the Paris Agreement on the 4th of October. That makes it the quickest and biggest international accord ever to go in from negotiation into law in UN history. And I think it's a huge deal. It means that the world is now reacting to the climate emergency with, by the standards of our previous behavior, incredible speed and urgency. And the other good news that came right on the tail of the announcement of the Paris Agreement was that the International Energy Agency has just revised its forecasts for the growth of renewables up for the next 5 years by 13%. So that is a drastic increase. And it's because of new technological innovations and also much better policies around the world. And it really gives me so much hope that we can finally start tackling this climate emergency and start dealing with it and giving it the kind of care and attention that it really deserves. And I think Hillary Clinton in the White House really gives humanity a shot at doing that properly.
Absolutely. How cool is that? It may be illegal to profit and cause climate change. Go November 4th.
I think it's great.
No, one of my most favorite and interesting stories, one that affected me really personally, was the story that came out about how to reduce stress and anxiety through music. So researchers did over 1,000 people who suffer from anxiety and also normal control. They gave them all different types of music. And they found the top 10 songs which can reduce stress. And the top one can reduce stress by up to 65%. So listen to that song, which totally chilled me out. But to find out which song that is, you're going to have to click on the link and find, to hear.
Well, maybe we could do all our viewers a favor and just play out this interview with that song.
No, click on the link.
Sorry, Chris and Vinny. Okay. Well, it's great to see you. It looks beautiful over there. It's nice to see you smiling and great to see you so early in the morning. I hope your conference goes really well. It's been great to chat and catch up, and looking forward to hearing all about it when you get back to Melbourne.
Yeah, great to chat with you too, Gus. Can't wait to see you in Melbourne.
If you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel. Click, and all the show notes are down below. And we're looking forward to seeing you for the next edition. Thanks.
So I do a little